Hanley Ramirez leads things off. Electricity here at Shea. And Trachsel throws a first pitch strike. Something he did to only 3 of 15 batters in his last start.
Well, that's something he's definitely been working on, is trying to get into that zone where he's throwing strikes. Trachsel needs to be aggressive early in the count so he can go out of the strike zone when he gets ahead.
The curve hit hard, and Reyes with a sparkling stop. He gets Ramirez one away.
Oh, right off the bat, what a play. John Van Beesbrook threw out the first ball today. That was a glove save and a beauty by Jose Reyes.
Reyes and the Beezer. So one spectacular out. And here is Dan Uggla, who, like Hanley Ramirez, whom he follows, a prime candidate for National League Rookie of the Year honors. The Marlins has got a half a dozen legitimate Rookie of the Year candidates. One of them was supposed to be pitching tonight, Josh Johnson, who spun 5 shutout innings against the Mets last week, but he's got a little tenderness in his forearm and is not pitching tonight. Another chance for Reyes, a lot more routine. And Uggla retired 2 away. So 2 out and nobody on.
Well, that beautiful play by Reyes at shortstop. This is the lineup you're probably going to see on October 3rd or 4th for the Mets. And over the weekend, Carlos Beltran, his display of throwing in Pittsburgh was just not to be believed. Doubled up Sanchez at first, but also made some spectacular throws to second and third.
Almost got Jason Bay on a play at third base that would have been a phenomenal play, and he just barely missed pulling it off. Well, here's Miguel Cabrera, second leading hitter in the league at .340. And he is having a spectacular year. And Trachsel gets ahead of another hitter. I don't know. Every time I see that list run, I think 5 right-hand hitters at the top of the league.
Never see that. You're lucky if there's 1 out of 5.
1964, the last time the top 5 hitters in the National League at the end of the year were all right-hand batters.
Well, interesting little sign early. When you look at Steve Trachsel, what do you want to see? You want to see the ball down. You want to see him throw strikes. You want to see him produce ground balls. He's done that so far early in the game.
5 pitches, 4 strikes, and 2 ground balls. Cabrera shoots 1 foul, and Trachsel will work from ahead in the count against a hitter who has owned him. Cabrera 11 for 19 with 3 home runs against Trachsel. Josh Willingham on deck, and this crowd is in the mood to celebrate. This is with a splitter, 2-2.
So do you think they're not going to take no for an answer tonight? I mean, they are imploring their team to win this game tonight. It's fired up.
There are probably 10 or 15,000 more people here tonight than there would have been had the Mets clinched yesterday. And they're here for a reason. 3-2 to Cabrera. Steve Trachsel got knocked out in the 3rd inning of his last start against the Dodgers, and that was 8 days ago. Now, Trachsel's a guy who loves his routine, but his history is with 7 days of rest or more, he does well. Cabrera just fouled that ball off. You see what Trachsel has done on 7 or more days rest. That's in his career, and better than that as a Met. As a Met in 9 starts, 4-3, 3.56. Which is well better than Trachsel's career number.
I think the number there is he has 17 starts on 7 days rest or more.
And he walks Cabrera on a very close pitch. So a 2-out walk. Will settle the crowd back in its seats.
The left fielder, number 14, Josh Willingham.
And Josh Willingham will step in. Willingham has hit 5 of those 25 home runs this year against the Mets. Only 2 other players in the Mets' 45-year history have hit that many home runs against them as a rookie. Rico Carty hit 8 against the Mets in '64. Mike Schmidt hit 5 in 1973. And now Josh Willingham has hit 5. And the breaking ball misses 1-0.
Well, Willingham just outstanding as you see the Mets defense. pretty deep against the power hitter Willingham, but he showed a great ability to. He has those short kind of arms. You know, it's hard to get the ball inside on Willingham. He and Ugla both.
Greg Jeffrey's arms.
Yes, that's right.
1-1 to Willingham. Well, Josh Willingham has had a terrific year with the bat as you look at Trachsel.
Good changeup from Trachsel. A lot of life on his changeup tonight so far in this early going.
Willingham was one of the Marlins who struggled defensively in the 10th inning in Atlanta yesterday, and just an awful loss. Marlins scored 4 runs in the top of the 10th and lost the game. Willingham and Reggie Abercrombie combined to make 4 bad plays in the outfield. Hanley Ramirez had an error at shortstop. I mean, you can't have a worse meltdown than that.
And considering those games they lost against the Mets, Lace, just a tough week for the Marlins.
But they've shown a remarkable ability to bounce back, especially for a young team. I mean, they would have every reason to have folded their tent after their experience against the Mets last week, but they bounced back the very next game and beat the Braves.
Well, they've had good starting pitching all year long. When you have good starting pitching, you never get in one of those funks for too long.
1-2 to Willingham. Lifted to right, a long run in for Sean Green. Loses the cap, catches the ball, side retires. Cap retrieval by Valentin, and the Mets will come up. 34-year-old Brian Moeller making the spot start for the Marlins tonight. And here's the Chevy Mets lineup to face him, and it is the A lineup. Paul LaDuca's done very well against his old team this year, but all of those left-hand batters are thirsting to face a right-hand pitcher.
Well, not only to face a right-handed pitcher, but a right-handed veteran pitcher who they know and they've seen, of course. Brian Moeller, one of those guys that you have to have on your staff that goes between being a starter and a long man in your bullpen. Doesn't say anything against that role. Brian Moeller, just lots of base runners, though, and he has a penchant for giving up the long ball. 16 in 110 innings.
This is his 19th start. He's made 8 relief outings. He started early in the year for the Marlins, but has been mostly pitching out of the bullpen with the emergence of their young starters. Jose Reyes leads off. First pitch, ground ball. And Dan Ugla throws out Reyes, 1 away. And with the anticipation that you can feel from the crowd, it's very much a playoff style atmosphere, even though it's not quite sold out here. The Mets sold 10,000 tickets since the end of yesterday's game. You wonder whether the Mets might be a little over anxious, as Reyes might have been there.
Yeah, it really is, Gary. It's palpable, the feeling here in the stadium. You can really sense the Met fans, and they want this to happen tonight. And you're right. I think it sometimes makes you a little excitable as a player also.
LaDuca had a very good series in Pittsburgh, one of the few who did. And he's got his batting average up to .315. That's now 6th in the National League. And what's been fabulous to watch with LaDuca is how he's kept his strength late in the year.
Well, he made a comment and said that last year, and I know you saw him at the end of the year, he had pulled, I think, both hamstrings and could barely run the bases. So just being healthy, having his legs underneath him this year. And I think also, I've not talked about this, but I think playing in New York City cannot let your guard down. And I think this is a perfect place for him to play here.
Toward the middle and caught by the diving Ramirez, 2 out. Not quite a lot of sizzle on it, so Ramirez had time to get over and make the play.
Well, it's interesting. He was shading LaDuca up the middle. That's the only reason he was able to make that play. But a fine play by the young Ramirez.
So 2 out and nobody on.
Well, the Ford Marlins defense, second most in the National League. Those areas, that's going to happen when you have a lot of young players.
Carlos Beltran takes a strike. Carlos went without a hit in Pittsburgh, 0 for 9. In fact, in the month of September, he's just 7 for 41, but he has been drawing a lot of walks lately. In fact, even with that slump, Beltran's been on base at least once in 22 straight games. He's already got his 2nd highest walk total of his career. 1-2 to Beltran. Moeller trying to have a good first inning, which has eluded him lately.
You know, 1 year in my career, I could not go through the first inning without giving up a run. It was just obscene how bad it got after a while. And you have to try to fix it by warming up a little longer or warming up less, trying to find something that'll help you through that first inning.
Of course, if you're only starting once in a while like Moeller, it's hard to get into any rhythm at all. 1-2 to Beltran, who's 7 for 13 in his career against Moeller. This is with the fastball 2-2, and you see that fastball 86 miles an hour. That's Brian Moeller.
Well, what happens if you throw 86 miles an hour as you see Carlos Delgado on deck? You've got to be very precise.
2-2 to Beltran, and he struck him out with a breaking ball. And so Moeller puts a little mute button on the crowd, which was so electric, and now quiet after he gets the Mets out 1-2-3.
Scoreless here as we head to the top of the second. Steve Trachsel on the hill as the Mets try and nail down a division. And Gary and Ron during the break. You know, this crowd, they've been electric and loud all night long, and they took it up a little bit when they put a shot of Duaner Sanchez on the Jumbotron, and the crowd acknowledging him here in uniform. And Duaner's been here with the Mets since his season-ending injury in Miami. He's been rehabbing, and I spoke to him today in very good spirits and looking forward to celebrating with his teammates tonight.
Well, I love the fact that, you know, in most towns you show the setup guy who hasn't pitched in 2 months on the video board. Nobody would know who he was.
Crickets. You get nothing, right? But they had a beautiful hand for Sanchez.
2-0 to Mike Jacobs, who did not start any of the games against the Mets in Miami because the Mets started 3 left-handers. It's been a struggle for Jacobs lately. No longer playing every day, and he's 0 for his last 20. And he takes a strike, 2-1. Jake has 19 homers, 75 RBIs. And as Met fans found out very quickly last year, if you put one in his wheelhouse, he can park it. Trachsel throwing the fastball by him, and you have to keep that ball up with Jacobs.
Yeah, he loves the ball down in the strike zone. If you can throw that high fastball by him, because see his swing, kind of a loopy kind of swing, and this fastball out of the hands of Steve Trachsel running away from Jake.
And Jacobs holds up, stopped it in time. Doug Eddings, the umpire, down at third, 3-2.
Kind of unusual thing, right, Gary, is that you know that guy has a hole upstairs, but you're a guy who only throws the fastball 86 or 87 miles an hour. So that's it's nice that you get that kind of read from the scouts, but can you do it?
Because if you throw a split to him, he'll hit it off the ground. And fastball fouled back. I mean, Trachsel's stock in trade against the left-hand batters who throw him a splitter in that spot.
You know what I've seen from Jacobs is see Cody Ross on deck is that, like a lot of young players, his bat seems a little slow right now in September, and that'll happen to a young guy who hasn't played this many games in the big leagues.
3-2 to Jacobs, and he launches that one foul. Well, Trachsel got 2 outs on the first 3 pitches he threw today. This is more Trachsel-esque.
He was here very early today. Starting pitchers, as you see, these fish come fried. Well, we'll see.
Marlins now a game under 500 with yesterday's loss in Atlanta. And Jacobs hits it in the air to right center field. Green has enough room. Beltran over, and he calls him off. And Carlos has it 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. Time for the MLB.com SNY text poll of the day. Which Met do you think would make the best manager? That's a good one.
That is a good question.
Glavine, Floyd, Loduca, Delgado. Interesting choices to put in the poll, don't you think?
I think so. Like Valentin comes to mind. Woodward. Yes.
Yeah, guys like that. Anyway, well, Keith always wants the write-in votes.
Keith does?
Oh, God, yeah, he always wants to vote for E. Taken high by Cody Ross. Anyway, text your answer to 57508. For each text, you'll be entered into a drawing to win 2 tickets to the first NLDS game at Shea. Standard rate messaging fees may apply. Check with your carrier. Go to sny.tv for complete rules. O'Keefe was beside himself. One of those polls. Check swing foul by Ross when they asked who was the best Mets manager of all time, and Bobby Valentin wasn't included in the 4 choices. Keith was very upset.
Well, a lot of success here for Bobby V, so he should have been one of them. I remember that poll also. I think Davey got the most votes, right, in that poll.
I think Willie was second.
How soon they forget about the great Gil Hodges.
Yeah. And the curveball misses to Ross 2-1. Well, Cody Ross had that 3 home run game against the Mets. He has 2 7 RBI games this year, 1 for the Dodgers early in the year and 1 against the Mets last week. 2 7 RBI games. He has 43 for the season. That's unbelievable.
That's like the 1 year Ed Lynch was pitching for the Mets. Jeff Stone was their outfielder. He had 2 home runs off Ed Lynch in one of the early April games. Went back in September. He had 3 home runs.
Jeff Stone could run. Hit hard, and Trachsel gets out of the way, and Valentin makes the play. 2 out. Trachsel got a piece of it, and Valentin made the play on Ross.
Well, Trachsel follows through towards the first base side. That's why this ball chases him. Just able to get his glove up in time and protect himself, and a nice break off the glove and straight to Valentin.
So 2 out and nobody on. And Trachsel will take on Alfredo Amezaga, who's been playing most of the center field for the Marlins. That is an area where the Marlins have got to upgrade in the offseason. Amezaga's a utility infielder who's been playing a lot of center field.
Well, they thought Reggie Abercrombie was going to have one of those rookie seasons like a lot of their young developing guys are having for Joe Girardi, but he did not. He's really struggled this year.
Little tapper. Wright was playing in, which was the right place to be to throw out Amezaga's side retired. So a 1-2-3 inning for Steve Trachsel, and the Mets will come to bat in the bottom of the 2nd with no score. Home 2nd inning. Carlos Delgado leads off against Brian Mulder, who needed just 9 pitches to get the Mets out in the 1st. One 1-0 to Delgado. 38 home runs, 108 RBIs, now just 6 behind Beltran for the club lead, which is amazing considering he had really a 2-month slump. Hits this one pretty well to center field. Amezaga going back, and he runs it down 1 away. Amezaga not playing quite as shallow as we've seen at times.
You know, earlier in the season, Gary, he was playing very shallow. A lot of hits. The Mets got over his head, but he got a great jump on this ball, as you can see, and does a good job of tracking it down. I think that just comes with playing all season out there. He's a great athlete, and to be able to be an infielder and go out there and play center field, he's done a nice job.
There's David Wright. And as Chris Cotter noted earlier, Wright has not hit a home run here at Shea since before the All-Star game. That's phenomenal. 26 games, 85 at bats. He's hitting .306 here at Shea during that stretch, so it's not like he's not hitting. Backhand play by Ramirez, and the overhand throw gets right, 2 away. So the Mets, who struggled in Pittsburgh with their bats, have been retired. First 5. Check out Subway around the majors. The Padres beat the Dodgers for the 2nd straight day yesterday. Termel Sledge with the game-winning hit to put San Diego in first place. Tigers and White Sox, a key series for Chicago tonight. And there you see the Phillies. Remember, a Philadelphia loss would clinch the division for the Mets as much as a Met win would. So the Mets need to play fast. Now, just from a player standpoint, okay, say it's the 8th inning here and the Mets are winning and Philadelphia loses their game. What do you do?
I think you have handshakes on the bench, that kind of stuff, but you wait for the outcome of the game. Hopefully you are winning the game, but I think it's very uncomfortable. It's very unnatural not to win it on the field.
But if that happens and say you clinch in the 8th inning and then you win the game, do you celebrate as if that game was the clincher?
I think you would celebrate. I think you'd go out on the field and you would celebrate with your teammates, with the pitcher who closes out the game. Absolutely. When I was with the A's in '92, they clinched on an off day, and my family still lived here in New York, so I was flying home at the time and found out the news on an airplane flight on the red eye.
Cliff Floyd swings and misses. Did you order a glass of champagne for yourself?
No, I just I remember someone had one of those. Now it's antiquated, but one of those kind of TV radio things, and I was able to see the end of the game.
How'd you feel?
Felt strange. And the next day, I was home in New York, and I didn't know what to do. It just hung out with my kids like I usually did.
What did your teammates do on that off day?
They had a party in Oakland at one of the local Jack London Square bar/restaurant, and they had a blast, they told me.
But they probably didn't spill champagne on each other.
No spilling of champagne.
To center field off the bat of Floyd, and a Meziga there. And Brian Moeller's retired the first 6 Mets. So the Mets offense, which struggled in Pittsburgh, struggles the first 2 innings here at Shea. As Miguel Olivo lifts one to right field, and Sean Green is right there. 1 pitch and 1 out. You notice in that call, Steve Zabriskie said finally. And the reason he said finally is because you guys waited just as long as this team has to clinch.
Someone with a Keith Hernandez shirt. Remember now that game in '86 that Dwight pitched that complete game effort. Dave Magadan played first base. I think he was 3 for 3 in that game with a few RBIs. And Keith really just played the 9th inning because he was not feeling well, but he wanted to be on the field to celebrate, of course.
Brian Moeller, a notoriously poor hitting pitcher, takes a strike. 86. No, wait, let's go back. 69. Gary Gentry pitches a complete game. 86. Doc pitches a complete game. 88. You pitch a complete game for the clincher. Moeller pops up, and Reyes has the angle. The snow cone. Wasn't supposed to be quite that way, but it is the second out.
I've seen him a couple of times. He's been doing a little of that snatching on the pop-ups, and that one there, he got his glove right in front of his face and almost missed that.
So I guess my question to you is, what are the odds of a Met pitcher pitching a complete game for the clincher?
I think the odds are very, very small because the history has been is that guys with this bullpen, you don't need to pitch a complete game. But in saying that, because they've been playing that '88 game when you guys have had rainouts in Florida, everyone comes up to me and their first question is, "Hey, you pitched the whole game? like 9 innings?" It's very funny how people they just don't see that often anymore, and that is such a thing they can't believe.
Younger fans have no idea. I mean, it used to be that it was assumed you were going to pitch 9 innings. If you didn't, you had failed in some way.
You know who pitched middle relief in the '80s? Guys that weren't good. Those are the guys that pitched middle relief.
Right. You had 1 or 2 guys who trusted out of your bullpen. But the assumption was that the starter was going to finish.
Well, listen, you start out with just look at this stat, complete games per start. Just radically different now here in 2006.
2-2 to Ramirez.
Yeah, it's just, and I would have loved to have had this bullpen here with the Mets. I mean, they're just unbelievable. But look at those numbers from 1980 to 2005.
25 years, you have 1/6 the number of complete games. Well, the Cubs now opening up a big lead against John Lieber and the Phillies. 2-hopper for right. And he throws out Ramirez. And Trachsel's now retired 7 in a row. Home 3rd inning, Sean Green leads off against Brian Moeller. Neither team has had a hit. Mets are looking for their first base runner. Sean just 2 for his last 20. Had the day off yesterday. Takes a strike.
You're talking about those postseason tickets. I didn't realize how many friends I still have here in New York City as they're coming out of the woodwork.
In the next month, my friend, if the Mets are still playing, you'll have plenty more. Green fouls it off. Well, the one thing about postseason tickets is that even the players have to pay for them. A little different from the regular season. Those are going to be like gold. in a couple of weeks. And Green, who's been a magnet lately, gets hit for the 4th time in his last 4 games.
And arguably the skinniest Met. I mean, there's not much of a target there to hit him, as Moeller just completely misses that strike zone. You see he's got that fastball grip, trying to cut that ball inside on Green, and not even close.
Well, the Mets have their first base runner, and Sean's got to wonder what the National League's got against him. He's never been hit in more than 11 times in a season in his career, so he's never been a guy who's been a real target. And yet he's been hit 4 times in the last 4 games now. So here's Valentin. Moeller out the stretch for the first time. And misses with a breaking ball. Now Valentin thrilled to see a righty on the mound because he's just not hit at all from the right side of the plate. Now he gets to bat from his better side. In fact, his batting average as a right-hand hitter is down to .202 for the season.
Gary, remember him earlier in the season? Jose Valentin, as you can see the numbers, left-handed and right-handed. Stark contrast. Remember he had an at-bat against Chris Hammonds?
Yep.
And he batted lefty and hit a home run off Chris Hammonds to center field? Yep. I wonder if he ever considers.
He hits this one in the air to deep right field. Back goes Ross, and it's out of here! Jose Valentin with the first hit of the game, a 2-run homer, and the Mets jump out to a 2-0 lead. Is this crowd in the mood to party?
Well, my point was, is he considering ever just going up there left-handed all the time, and an exclamation point on that beautiful left-handed swing.
Number 16 for Valentin, 2-0 Mets. Well, this crowd came to scream and they came to cheer. They had been back on their heels a little bit over the last 2 innings, but Valentin brought them all out of their seats in a hurry.
This crowd is playoff type loud tonight.
And were before the first pitch.
And how many 2-run home runs get a curtain call
in the 3rd inning?
In the 3rd inning.
I don't remember Valentin having a curtain call before this. Might have been when he had those 7 RBIs in 2 innings. Trachsel goes down, 2nd strikeout for Moeller, and that's the first out of the inning.
Well, you can laugh, and you should, Jose Valentin. What a year he has had this year for the Mets at second base.
Well, here's Reyes, who grounded out on the first pitch he saw from Brian Moeller tonight. That's amazing. You go to spring training and you spend 6 weeks there to answer, you hope, certain questions about your team. And sometimes over the course of a year you come up with an answer that nobody ever considered. And that's Jose Valentin. It was Kaz Matsui, it was Chris Woodward, it was Brett Boone, for goodness sakes, in spring training this year. And nobody even gave an inkling to the idea that Jose Valentin might be the Mets' second baseman for the long haul. Reyes drops one down. Moeller will have to hurry. Throws it away. And Reyes pulls into second base safely. The pressure that Reyes' speed puts on a defense fell right on top of Brian Moeller.
The most exciting player in the game today. Simple as that. See him running inside on that baseline. He made that throw much more difficult for Moeller. And Jose looked like he was looking all over the ballpark to get some information where he's supposed to go.
I'm not sure he picked up where the ball was at first, but he had plenty of time to make it to second. He'll get credit for a bunt single and then an error on Moeller, allowing him to go to second. Now Loduca, and the Marlins have to be wary about Reyes stealing third. With one out. 57 steals on the year for Reyes. One and over Loduca. Ball lined out to short his first time up. Reyes not as comfortable stealing third as Beltran is. But he certainly has the speed to do it, and he'll do it occasionally. But Ramirez keeping a close watch on him. And the changeup in for a strike.
Always more difficult to steal off a veteran pitcher also. Moeller giving multiple looks at Reyes at second base. That is what really guys who steal third from second are looking for. A guy who just gives them one look every single time they're out there. Moeller, nice lead by Reyes.
Nobody had a better pickoff move at second base than you did. What was the key?
Well, the key is you have to have a middle infielder. I was lucky enough to have Kevin Elster, who is just an amazing shortstop. Amazing quickness for his size. So the key is you got to have a good infielder, and you got to have someone who wants to do it. A lot of infielders are not comfortable with picking guys off second.
1-2 to Loduca. Tough man to strike out, and now Ramirez makes the dash to the bag, and Reyes just gets the hand back.
Well, that's a great shot of that. You'll see daylight. As soon as you see daylight, you turn and throw. And the daylight being between the shortstop and the base runner, Jose Reyes. As soon as you see a little line in there, you turn and throw. The faster the runner, the earlier you have to throw on daylight.
There goes Reyes. Throw by Olivo. Out at third. Miguel Olivo's got a great arm, and he made a perfect throw. Reyes didn't think he was out.
Great arm. He also picked this ball out of the dirt and made this throw. It looked like Reyes slid into the leg of Miguel Cabrera. Let's see where his hand goes. He's safe.
Yeah, he got tagged up on the arm while that hand was already in.
Yeah, his hand's in there. Doug Eddings, the third base umpire, missed that call.
I wonder if Eddings was looking at the hand that hit the foot. As Loduca grounds one to Cabrera, and that'll do it for the Mets in the third, but the Mets grab the lead. Jose Valentin getting a chance to bat left-handed, and it pays off for him in his 16th home run of the year. And the Mets have themselves a 2-0 lead going to the fourth, looking for the clincher. Steve Trachsel take to a 2-0 lead. Dan Uggla will lead off for the Marlins in the fourth inning. Uggla bounced to short his first time. And Trachsel with another first pitch strike.
Boy, Trachsel looks nice on this extra day's rest. That bodes well for him if he gets a playoff start, because that's what happens a lot of times in the playoffs. You have a lot of days in between starts.
And the curveball in for a strike. Well, Trachsel had two bad starts back to back. Not only did he not pitch well, only 7 innings in the 2 starts, but the Mets stopped scoring for him. And he strikes out Uggla on the splitter. His first strikeout of the night.
Well, nice movement on this ball down from Trachsel. You called it right, Gary. That split finger ball comes tumbling out instead of shooting out of your hand, and just great pitch.
In 2006, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York will donate $25 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. Go to www.hopeandheroes.org. Cabrera first pitch swinging, and Valentin throws him out, 2-man down. So not only is Trachsel taking care of the Marlins. He's taking care of them quickly.
Economically. And, you know, his last start, Gary, he went through the lineup. The first 2 innings, he was fantastic, just like he is now. And then gave up that 4 spot in the 3rd, but looks much sharper tonight.
Never got out of that 3rd inning against the Dodgers. Meanwhile, I wonder if the Marlins have a little bit of a hangover from their game yesterday. Here's Josh Willingham, and he takes a strike.
Well, you said about the Met hitters that maybe they're a little more excitable here with this big crowd and the excitement. I'm sure that the young players for the Marlins feel that also.
There's a strike 0-2. Joe Girardi, after the game yesterday in Atlanta, was disconsolate and said it was our worst loss of the year, which I guess goes without saying. When you're up by 4 runs in the 10th and you lose. 0-2 to Willingham, just a little low.
Well, Gary, that'll be one thing they have to address, right? It'll be their bullpen in the offseason because they've really had problems out there.
And their outfield defense,
yes,
which was also a major contributor in that loss. Remember that Willingham, coming into the season, was supposed to be a catcher slash outfielder. Miguel Olivo took over as a catcher, and Willingham's been playing exclusively in left field, but he's not a particularly gifted outfielder. Lines one into left center, and there's the first hit of the game for the Marlins. That'll split the outfielders and go to the wall. And Willingham cruises in with his 28th double of the year.
We were talking about before, he's got those short arms, so it's hard to get that fastball inside. As Trachsel tries to throw this 2-seamer, run it in on Willingham, stays over the middle of the plate. But when you have those short arms, Ron Say, I remember in the 80s, guys, they really are able to pull them in and hit that inside pitch a lot better than those guys with those long arms.
The long arm guys have the prettier swing.
Yes,
sometimes.
they do.
Like a Mike Jacobs, he's got a very pretty swing, but sometimes a little slow.
A little long. This swing's a little long.
Jacobs flying to center his first time up. And Trachsel just missing.
It's almost a catch-22 for guys like Mike Jacobs. Where does he get his power? From that long, beautiful swing. Where does he go through those droughts 0 for 20 because of that long, beautiful swing?
Jacobs also a catcher coming up through the Mets farm system, and he's a little challenged at first base. And you look around these Marlins, and they've got a little difficulty on defense sometimes. That's a great shirt.
Sure.
Hadn't seen that one before. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Chris Connor with you from Shea Stadium in New York. The Mets trying for the clincher tonight, back before the home folk, and they've got a 2-0 lead as we play the top of the 4th. 2-1 to Jacobs. And even Miguel Cabrera, a guy who has played shortstop and he's played the outfield, has settled in at third base, which is his favorite position, but may not be his best position. So they've got some figuring out to do. But they have certainly made enormous strides, far more than anybody could have anticipated this year. 2-2 to Jacobs.
Well, that's the nature of the beast now, though. You want offense more than defense. And when you have a catcher playing left field, a middle infielder playing center field, another catcher playing first base, those are the things that are going to happen.
Fans rub it up with 2 strikes. Trachsel not exactly your K corner kind of guy. But he gets Jacobs looking, side retired. Second strikeout for Trachsel as he strands Willingham. On to the bottom of the 4th. 2-0 New York. I can tell you what time it was when he got the final out.
Wow.
Because that's part of Lindsey Nelson's famous call. At 9:07 on September 24th, 1969. You know who made the final out?
I do know who made the final out. He does some of his managing across town.
Future New York managers were pretty good at making final outs in big Met games.
That's right. Davey Johnson made the final out.
1969 World Series, the fly ball to Cleon Jones. It was Joe Torre who hit the final ground ball in the Mets 6-0 win back in '69 against the Cardinals.
If you ask Davey, he'll tell you he just missed it too.
Well, as far as the last outs go, the ball Piazza hit to end Game 5 against the Yankees, that one I thought had a lot better chance. Beltran drives it to deep center. Amazing back. It's over his head. And Beltran pulls in with his 38th double of the year, his 79th extra base hit, now just one shy of a Mets club record.
Well, we've seen it all season long. This changeup from Brian Moeller stays up in the strike zone, out and away from Beltran, and if you throw the pitch there, you are in trouble because that is his sweet spot. So he drives up all over the head of Amezaga.
Beltran now 8 for 15 in his career against Moeller. And there you see extra base hits, just one behind Hojo's record set 17 years ago. Now here's Delgado flying to center his first time up. Delgado takes a changeup for a strike. Carlos Delgado, last year a Florida Marlin, after spurning the Mets' efforts to sign him as a free agent, coming over in the trade for Mike Jacobs, and it has been the deal that sealed the Mets lineup as one to fear. Curveball for a strike, 0-2.
Wow. My right arm used to do that, you know. It doesn't do that anymore.
You were double jointed?
I was double jointed, not anymore though. That was close to 3,000 innings. I got a nice little bow in my right arm now.
Splitter took the double jointedness out of your elbow.
I remember Joe McIlvaine once said to me, I think it was around 90 or 91, he said, boy, you know, you're not throwing as hard as you used to. You know, that split finger's taking away your fastball. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that split finger also got a world championship. You know, it did all right in its day.
Fastball misses, like Steve Stone saying, you know, he knew that he could throw a season's worth of curveballs and win 20 games, but he wasn't going to do it much longer right at the end of his career. David Wright on deck. Mets looking to add to their 2-0 lead here in the fourth. And that will advance the runner. Uglo throws out Delgado as Beltran moves over to third. So a productive out for Delgado, and Wright will try and get the run in.
David Wright.
Right and right. That was the home run derby right on the left. If you're keeping track.
The other Wright brothers.
The infield comes in. David with 110 RBIs. He pops it up. Jacobs has room. 2 out. So Wright can't get the run in from third. It's left to Cliff Floyd with 2 away. Cliff flying to center his first time up. Mets took the lead in the third on Jose Valentin's 2-run homer. And Steve Trachsel has been terrific so far. Now the Mets trying to get him some more runs, something they've generally been pretty good at this year.
When they were working on all cylinders, clicking on all cylinders, they would get a lot of these 2-out kind of RBIs. David Wright wasn't able to come up with the hit or the sacrifice fly to drive in Beltran, and then the next guy would pick him up. And I think that's what a lineup has to do.
And the Mets need for Floyd to click, because he's a key part of this batting order at its best. You know, they've got Floyd hitting 6th and Green hitting 7th, and if either one of them is at full strength, hitting the way they're capable, with Valentin hitting 8th, This is an awesome lineup to take into the postseason. But neither Floyd nor Green has shown that they're operating at full strength. 2-1 to Cliff. And it makes you wonder whether Willie would give any thought, if both of them continue to struggle, to starting Andy Chavez or Lastings Village when we go to the postseason.
The only problem with starting Chavez is you lose him off your bench because he's such a valuable player. But like in yesterday's game when he had the 3 hits, he's just produced all season long.
And he's a great outfield.
Yes.
2-2 to Floyd. Cliff thought that pitch was inside. And discusses it with Dana DeMuth. Willie every day has been saying, I have things I need to look at. We have things we need to figure out. But I'm not going to tell anybody about it before we figure those things out. You see the Phillies getting trounced. 3-2 to Floyd. But the good part about that is that that game's in the top of the 4th and this game's in the bottom of the 4th. So as long as the Mets can stay ahead in terms of the inning, then that's good. Aramis Ramirez has 2 home runs in that game for the Phils, who started John Lieber, but he's long since departed.
Well, Moeller, a lot like Trachsel, when he has players on base, he really slows down his routine.
Three and 2 to Floyd, and he strikes him out with a changeup. So Moeller picks up his 3rd strikeout and works around the leadoff double from Beltran. On to the 5th. 2-0 New York.
Straight over the top, right? Good fastball, good curveball.
That was his rookie season, 1969. Trachsel gets ahead of Cody Ross as we go to the 5th inning. That's at Seaver, Kuzman, Gentry, Don Cardwell, Jim McAndrew.
That sounds like a big hang with them for other teams, as they had an amazing record that year. Didn't they? The shutouts, I think, that you were a tremendous amount for a pitching staff.
As they were heading down the stretch in September, they had one incredible day that I don't think it's ever been equaled, and I'm not sure it ever will be. They played the Pirates in a doubleheader. They won both games 1-0, and in each game the pitcher, Kuzman and Cardwell, drove in the only run.
Wow.
Oh, and 2 to Ross. Bounces that splitter. Cody Ross has already been with 3 teams this year. As you look at Amazing on deck, started with the Dodgers and tore it up in spring training. We saw him hit some monstrous home runs. Then got traded to the Reds and then on to Florida. Loops that one, shallow right center. Beltran on, and he runs it down. Beltran came a long way to get that fly ball for the first out. Well, there are your wild card standings in the National League right now, and with the Marlins having stumbled over the last week, they need every game.
Yeah, I still think that it's going to be Philadelphia in that wild card because they have good starting pitching, although not tonight with Lieber down 8-0.
Well, there you see what the teams involved in the wild card have left, and really no advantage in terms of home road or opposition's record among the teams leading. Here's Alfredo Amezaga, and he takes high. And of course, what that means, if the Phillies win it, and I think we all agree that we think the Phillies are going to win it, that would mean that the Mets would not play the wild card team in the first round. They'd play the division champion with the lesser record, which right now would be the West champion, Padres or the Dodgers. But the Cardinals have been playing so poorly down the stretch, there's no guarantee it's going to stay that way.
It looks like their closer, Jason Isringhausen, out for the year is Hathead.
Did he take the ice cream out of those cups before he put them together? 2-1 to Amezaga. Yeah, with Isringhausen out, of course, that means that Braden Looper is now the closer for the Cardinals. And you could see Braden Looper coming to Shea Stadium for the first round of the playoffs, trying to save games in front of this crowd. Wouldn't that be some irony? 3-1 to Wemezga. Of course, if the Mets were to play the Padres, you'd have that interesting matchup, perhaps, of Mota against Piazza in the wrong uniforms. There's strike 3 and 2.
Well, the one thing with when you get with the Cardinals or the Padres is that they have one outstanding starting pitcher who's going to get 2 starts. Peavy, of course, for the Padres, who is he's had a tough year, but he is just a guy that can literally shut you out and strike out 13, 14 batters. And the same for Chris Carpenter, who's really gotten hot here in September.
Now, Peavy, of course, has got to survive the clincher this year. Last year he got hurt when the Padres clinched the division in the dog pile and went out and pitched the first game of the postseason against the Cardinals and had to leave early because he was hurt. Wemezga drives one to right. Green over. And there are 2 down. So 2 out and nobody on. Here's what the Mets have done against the potential playoff teams they could face in the first round.
It's hard to get a feel because you just don't play the teams enough anymore.
And then, of course, the question becomes, does it really matter?
Yeah.
You remember, of course, 1988.
I forgot that entire year. I don't remember it at all.
Mets beat the Dodgers 10 out of 11 that year. And when it all was said and done, didn't really mean a thing.
That's
The Dodgers were a team of destiny that year. They had Oral Hershiser having the year of his life and Kirk Gibson having the year of his life. Miguel Olivo flying to right his first time, and he takes a curveball for a strike.
I mean, they won the World Series with Mickey Hatcher in the lineup, and I know Mickey, and Mickey's great and was a great bench player, but the Dodgers just, Oral Hershiser decided to take over September and October that year, and he did.
And then you can throw in Mike Scioscia for good measure.
Hey, listen, the Mets had a chance in Game 7. I pitched poorly, so bad, and I was so shell-shocked after the game. I remember getting on the team bus, and my family was on the team bus, and walking right by them. I didn't even know they were on the bus. That's how shell-shocked I was, and I think we were as a team.
Well, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, after everything that happened in 1987 that kept you guys out of the postseason, you thought that 88 was going to be a continuation of 86.
We had a 3-year window, I believe. 86, 87, and 88 should have been the Mets' time. Only one championship for those 3 years, and that was a disappointment, I know, for the guys that played on that team.
Olivo held the swing.
Good fastball by Trachsel inside, tying up Olivo.
Well, Miguel Olivo has walked only 8 times this year. Hits it hard, but a right of David Wright. Side retired. 1-2-3 inning for Steve Trachsel. He's only allowed 1 hit through the first 5 innings as the Mets go for the clincher. Well, that was in vogue right about the time the Mets clinched their last division title, right?
That's a wild hair. And those long sideburns, that's more 69, isn't it?
More 73, actually.
73?
Yeah.
That's right. All the players had the long sideburns, including the Grand Orange, Rusty Staub.
Shawn Green leads off in the home 5th inning. Check out the Amtrak pitching line. Steve Trachsel has been phenomenal early. Moeller in a spot start for Josh Johnson, who's got a little tender forearm. And he's been okay except for Valentin's home run. Right at Dan Uggla. And Green retired 1 away. Well, the fans here at Shea have come ready to celebrate tonight. We were told that from the time the game ended yesterday in Pittsburgh to the time this game began, the Mets sold an extra 10,000 tickets, which is just unheard of these days. So you can tell that these fans want to invest themselves with the Mets. Party hats. It's Valentin whose home run is the difference in this game, and here it is, the Coors Light cold blast that came in the 3rd inning. 16th of the year for Valentin. And a curtain call to boot. If you're a player and you're in a situation like the Mets are in tonight, and the crowd is filled with electricity the way this one was right from the start, do you feel that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that if you're the starting pitcher, maybe you don't feel it as much.
Valentin lifts another one to deep right. Ross back, looking up, and it's out of here! Jose Valentin with his second home run of the game. His 17th of the year, and it's 3-0 New York. Two curtain calls in one night for Jose Valentin.
Yes, the Mets fans are jumping around tonight, as that was a bomb off the bat of Jose Valentin. Second one.
'19th time in his career, Valentin has hit 2 or more home runs in a game.
Well, Juan Sanchez relegated to being a cheerleader, but he's doing a good job of it for Jose Valentin tonight.
And Trachsel had some base hit to right. Ross thought about trying to throw him out at first, but Trachsel hustled down the line.
And you know, Gary, as you see this base hit, breaking ball from Chad Moeller. Steve Trachsel looking like he knows what he's doing as he goes the other way for that breaking ball to right field.
6th hit of the year for Trachsel. You were talking about feeling the energy.
You feel the energy, and I think the curtain calls are not only because they're excited, but not only because they're home runs, but I think it's also a culmination of enjoying Jose Valentin's play all season long.
Meanwhile, the Phillies were down 8-0 against the Cubs going to the bottom of the 4th, and I think every Met fan would prefer that the Phillies win that game.
Yes.
So that the Mets can win and celebrate and not have to worry about any other circumstances. Reyes had a bunt single his last time up. Pokes that one foul. Well, the Mets owned this town in the 1980s. They're trying to win it back. Reyes goes down. That's the second out. But baseball teams can have an enormous effect on a city. Go back to 1969. John Lindsay was the mayor at the time and was in the fight of his life for re-election. The Mets shocked the world by winning the World Series. A lot of people credit that with leading Lindsay to win a 3-way battle and get re-elected that year.
Well, that's the kind of thing that can happen to teams like that. Of course, the people who rooted for the '69 team had to go through all those losing seasons, as you see the champagne is on ice, all through the horrible seasons where, you know, if you were a Met fan in '62 to '65, you were a Met fan.
It was the lovable losing Mets, and then all of a sudden they became the amazing Mets. And similarly, Met fans who suffered through the late '70s and early '80s and watched that team build is a little different because it was a 3-year process. It culminated in the '86 championship.
And I think this team has a little bit of that, in the sense that by rewarding Reyes and Wright with those contracts, they're telling fans that we are going to be a team that is going to be a consistent winner for years to come. And fans love that. They love when a team invests, or when the ownership and the Mets invest in their team and want to have a successful team over a course of time. You know, the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Right. It's not just building a team and bringing in free agents to win once. It's trying to win consistently, and of course that's how you win the town back from a team that has won consistently over the last decade. And
all fans love to see a team that not only is successful at the major league level, but they love following those minor leaguers and see them come up and make their way.
Loduca grounds one to Cabrera, and he gets the force to end the inning. But the Mets add a run. Jose Valentin with his second home run of the game, and it's got Met fans ready for a party. It's 3-0 New York as we go to the 6th. Take mass transit to Shea as the series with the Marlins continues tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday nights at 7:10. Then the Nationals come to New York Friday for a 4-game set. Tickets to potential Mets postseason games will be available for purchase exclusively through random online drawings. Go to Mets.com or LosMets.com and register today. He's been around for all the Met championships. Steve Trachsel's been brilliant so far. And he's got himself a 3-0 lead as we go to the 6th. Jason Wood will pinch hit for Brian Moeller leading off in the 6th inning. Wood is 36 years old. He recently got his first hit in the big leagues in over 7 years. Previously played for Oakland back in the late 90s. Reniel Pinto, the lefty, up in the Marlins bullpen. This is Jason Wood's 43rd major league game. He's played 1,785 minor league games. That, my friend, is commitment.
And I honestly don't know how those guys do it. I don't. From my first bus ride when I was in Tulsa, I said, this isn't going to work for me. I need to get up to the big leagues. This is tired.
It's not easy. 1-1 to Wood.
I remember the Tulsa Driller team had a bus that they had morphed into where you could move the seats around. It became beds so the guys could sleep overnight on it. I joined the team in the middle of the year after the college season. So, of course, I did not have a bed, so I had to stay up and play. I learned how to play hearts that summer with the coaches.
Didn't sleep a lot, did you?
No.
Popped up. Valentin retreating, called off by Green. There goes the cap. And Green's got the ball, 1 away. Well, nowadays, you not only get guys who spend year after year in the minors, but they go to Korea and Taiwan and Mexico, and they play in independent leagues. And there are a lot more spots available for guys who just don't want to give up.
I was offered a contract when I got out of college to play in the Japanese league. And I really considered it. I thought it might be a great experience, but I just thought at that time that I would have been blackballed if I'd have went to Japan instead of joining a minor league team.
Now those things happen.
Well, you were talking about Jason Wood, almost 7 years in between hits. The longest had been Warren Cromartie. Now, Warren Cromartie, correct me if I'm wrong, came up with the Expos. All that time, was he in Japan then? Is that why when he came back?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there have been players from the U.S. or the Dominican who've begun their careers in Japan.
Charlie Manuel, I believe, the coach manager for the Philadelphia Phillies, had most of his career home runs were hitting the Japanese leagues.
0-2 to Ramirez. I mean, you had guys like Manuel. Remember the Met pitcher, the tall guy Eric Hillman? He went over to Japan and had a number of very successful years after they played in the States. But Timo Perez, Robinson Cano, I mean, these guys played in Japan and then came here. And for a call, strike 3, and Ramirez down looking. Third strikeout, and Ramirez lingers to talk about it with Dana DeMuse.
When a guy is pitching like this, you use the term that he is dealing, and Steve Trachsel is dealing both sides of the plate, moving his fastball inside and out. And what I like is when Trachsel has his good games, to me, He uses that fastball. He's aggressive with his fastball, and he throws it for strikes. He doesn't pick around the corners.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Dan Uggla. Bounced to short and struck out. There's a curveball for a strike. And Trachsel's got it all working tonight.
This is not even a sharp one. This is, I'm going to get this over for a strike, get ahead of the hitter.
Uggla lifts it down the right field line. Cutting across is Valentin, but he can't get to it. Valentin's done everything but sweep the peanut shells tonight.
Well, Green helped him to his feet. That's the least he could do because he has to pick up his hat all the time up in right field.
I wonder when Sean Green's hat is going to start fitting.
All I know is every time it comes off, he makes a catch. So that's a good thing.
To Uggla. To third. Nice easy hop for right. And another 1-2-3 inning for Steve Trachsel. He has 1 hit. The Marlins over the first 6 innings. And the Mets have a 3-0 lead. This is the last night when your ice cream might melt, because it's going to get a little cooler starting tomorrow as Randy Pinto takes over the pitching for the Marlins.
Well, Pinto's done a nice job for them. One of the few guys out of that Marlin bullpen that's done a good job. You see those batting averages against.
Part of the batting order for the Mets. So we'll see how they fare against this particular left-hander. Beltran turns around about right-handed and takes ball 1. Beltran has one of the Mets' 5 hits, a long double to center, his 79th extra base hit of the season, just 1 shy of Howard Johnson's club record. And going into the final 2 weeks of the year, many club records are within reach of Beltran. Runs scored. If you look at Delgado on deck, he has 120, just 3 shy of the record. Cubs have added a run to make it 9-6 over the Phillies. It's like they're playing at Wrigley Field with the wind blowing.
Oh, that's a bandbox, Philadelphia. It's the new bandbox in the National League.
Well, Steve Trachsel pitched the best game of his life in a clincher in 1998. 2-1 to Beltran. Now, we've seen Steve throw a couple of 1-hitters as a Met. But here he is in another clincher and pitching another gem. When he pitched that 1-game wild card playoff with the Cubs in 1998. As Beltran hits one foul, he held the Giants hitless for the first 6 1/3 innings.
Wow. Oh, just outstanding tonight has Steve Trachsel been so far, going after his 15th win. You know, those Mets classics I mentioned 18 years ago, we saw that final out when I pitched here. I'd never seen that game until this year.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, after Pedro's game the other night, he said he doesn't watch the bad ones. He only watches the good ones.
Absolutely. Who wants to see you pitch poorly?
Well, what were you watching?
No, I just, yeah. Well, you guys had enough rainouts, or at least rain delays in Florida.
And Beltran draws another walk. So Pinto walks the first man to face him. As we check out the Hyundai in-game box score, it's been Jose Valentin's night on the offensive end. 2 home runs. Second time this year he's had 2 home runs in a game. The pitching part has belonged to Steve Trachsel. There's Pedro, who will go back to the mound on Thursday night in the final game of this series.
When I was in the newsroom the other night, some of the people were asking me, what do you remember about that 1988 game? I said, well, you really want to know? I said, yeah. I was 0 for 4, had 2 strikeouts, and I popped up a bunt.
That's what you remember?
That's what I can remember from that game.
Typical pitcher. All you guys care about is your hitting.
Exactly.
Now, I bet you remember the games when you hit home runs in back-to-back starts.
I do remember those games. I was thinking about it the other night because Pittsburgh had a pitcher, I believe his last name was Yeoman.
Right.
And one of my home runs was off Floyd Yeomans, who pitched for the Mets and then was traded in the Gary Carter trade to Montreal Expos.
Couple of veterans getting ready for another round of postseason play. 1-1 to Delgado. The Mets are certainly fortified with starting pitchers who've been through the postseason wars.
And that's important because there's nothing that prepares you for a postseason start other than starting one.
And very few have been more successful in the postseason than Orlando Hernandez.
And what I mean by that is that no one prepares you for the tickets you leave, the family that wants to come in and watch the game, because family doesn't really think that it's a big deal. You're just pitching a game, right? So let's go have lunch. I don't want to have lunch. I'm thinking about the game, and all those things that are off the field really increase during playoff time, and that's the thing that you cannot prepare for.
And Delgado goes down swinging for the first out. And of course you have so many more media to deal with. You deal with them differently. It's not guys at your locker. It's in an interview room. It's a much different kind of environment once the page turns to October.
Yeah, and then the guys who are playing, that's no problem, the everyday players. But sometimes you have some guys in the locker room who are not playing, who are SCUs, as Jeff Ennis used to call them. September call-ups, as Pedro's getting ready with some goggles.
I don't know. Is wearing goggles to a champagne celebration fair?
It's not fair.
I mean, part of the fun is having that champagne sting your eyes, right?
You should take it like a man and take the champagne in your eyes, because that is the best feeling you're ever going to have, even though you're in pain.
The best feeling you're ever going to have, even though you're in pain. It's good. Beltran gets back. Jacobs thought he swiped him, but Jim Joyce, I guess, felt he missed the tag, and Joe Girardi's going to come out to argue the call.
Well, Beltran caught sleeping a little bit here. What Jacobs is saying is that Beltran slid into his foot and never reached the bag until he had applied the tag.
It's been a very frustrating 24 hours or so for Joe Girardi. They lost a horrible game yesterday. Tough to tell if he got that hand back to the bag.
Well, some first basemen will put their foot in front of the bag on purpose. Mike Jacobs did not do that. His foot was just there. But quick way to stop that, if a first baseman's doing that, slide feet first. That'll stop it. He'll never do it again.
One and one to right. Well, I mean, obviously Pedro's been through the champagne before and doesn't want it to sting. First, Eduardo Sanchez has got his goggles. He doesn't have to wear swimming goggles.
Hit hard and trickles behind Cabrera, and everybody's safe. I'm not sure if Cabrera thought he had that ball, but it was lying behind him on what otherwise would have been a sure double play.
That ball was hit awfully hard, and I think he just tried to block it, keep it in front of him, but he was not able to.
It'll be an error on Cabrera. And the Mets have two men on for Cliff Floyd. Trying to add to a 3-0 lead. Floyd is flied out to center and struck out.
You know who needs those goggles? It's the hardest working man in show business, Chris Cotter. Because he's going to, they're going to inflict some pain on Chris Cotter with the champagne, I think.
I wonder if he knows what he's getting himself into tonight.
I don't need anything. I want to go in there and just get soaked. What can you do to prevent it from happening?
Tough guy. Wait till that stuff gets in your eyes.
I mean, what can you do to prevent it from happening? Nothing. Even if you wore a smock, some type of rain gear, they're going to pour it down your neck anyways. You're going to get wet. Incidentally, I was just down there. There are 25 cases of champagne outside the Mets clubhouse right now. 25 cases.
I don't think they're going to run out. Well, the ice has been laid on the champagne. That means it's officially getting close. Sixth inning there. We're a half inning ahead of them. That's a good thing. And Cliff bounces one. Jacobs can't get it. Base hit. Here comes Beltran around third. Ross's throw will go to third, and it's 4-0 New York.
Well, this is a great sign. Not only that it's a base hit from Cliff Floyd, also not because it's an RBI situation, but it's off a left-hander, Pinto, and Cliff Floyd stayed right in there, hit that ball through the hole, and by that time Beltran easily scores.
That's 121 runs scored for Beltran. That leads the league and is just 2 shy of the Mets club record. Now here's Sean Green. And he takes the fastball for a strike. Sean was hit by a pitch and scored a run. Grounded out. Right at second. Floyd at first and 1 away. Mets now with a 4-0 lead as they bat in the 6th.
Whenever I see that bubbly on ice, I can only think of Frank Cashin's famous words when one of the pitchers, relief pitchers in '86, dumped the champagne on him. His famous phrase was, "The ones that do the least seem to celebrate the most."
You know, I was talking to Tom Glavine earlier in the week. Back on the first day, I think, that the Mets could have clinched. And I asked him what it was going to be like for him here. After all, he's had 14 division titles, or however many he had 11
11
the Braves, and he celebrated division series championships and LCS championships and 1 World Series championship. He said with Atlanta, obviously the biggest celebration was the first one in '91. It's a double play ball to Ugla. Ramirez takes the flip and throws it wide, but Jacob stayed on the bag for the 4-6-3 double play. The Mets tack on a run, helped out by an error. 4-0 New York as Trachsel goes to the mound for the 7th. All right, Matt, here we go to the 7th inning. Steve Trachsel working on a 1-hit shutout. As we check out the Toyota National League scoreboard, Braves leading in Washington. You've seen the score in Philly. Houston trying to keep their very slim hopes alive. And St. Louis with a magic number of 8 for clinching the Central with the lead. Giants still in the race for the National League wild card, 3.5 back. And the big game in LA tonight. Padres with PV, Dodgers with Penny. Padres have taken 2 of the first 3 in that series to go up by a half a game. Randy Messenger up in the Florida bullpen as Miguel Cabrera leads off the 7th. San Diego has owned LA this year. 13-4. It's a very low pitch count for Trachsel working in the 7th. 2-1 to Cabrera. You see the standings in that National League West. Final meeting between the Padres and Dodgers tonight. It could well be that the Mets will be playing one of those teams about the first week in October. 2-2 to Cabrera. Whether as division champion or as wild card. Willie Randolph was talking today about who you play in the first round having a major impact on how you structure your roster. Of course, you can change your roster for each round in the postseason within limits. 3-2 to Cabrera. And to that end, Ramon Castro, who the Mets are hoping will be ready to play in the postseason, may be playing in an instructional league game or two by the end of this week, and very well may rejoin the Mets next week on the road.
Instructional league, of course, where you go down after the season's done, your minor league season, and work on some of those tools that eluded you during the season. We used to call it in struggle league because everyone's going down there to work on something that they had trouble with during the course of the season.
Of course, the minor league season being over, there's no minor league rehab games to play in. Lastings Millage hoping to be part of that postseason roster. And you have to believe that once the Mets get this clincher out of the way, that Millage is going to see a good deal of playing time the last 2 weeks to get a handle on whether he should be on that postseason roster.
Well, it's to his advantage because of the way the Mets have played against left-handed starting pitching that he's going to be given a look, because you want to have a right-handed right-handed bat off that bench.
Another foul ball off the bat of Cabrera, and then there's Andy Chavez, who has only been the Mets' best hitter against left-handed pitching the entire season.
Everyday Andy, just an amazing season for him. You know, you get guys at certain parts of their career. Andy always thought he was a leadoff kind of hitter, going to be an everyday center fielder. He was knocked back a couple of pegs because of his experience in Washington and Philadelphia. And now resigned himself probably this spring, that he's going to be a bench player for the Mets. And he's probably having his best year as I call him a utility starter, because during the course of the season he started a lot of games.
Well, he's got over 300 at bats, which is more than a utility guy generally does. This is the 10th pitch to Cabrera, and he fouls off another one. So Trachsel, who had not thrown a lot of pitches coming into this 7th inning, is throwing a ton in one at bat. Well, last year Andy was buried. There's no other way to put it. With the Nationals, with the Phillies, and he is having a heck of a time. Cabrera lines a base hit to center. So on the 11th pitch of the at bat, Miguel Cabrera has himself another hit. That's his 184th of the year. Don't forget to vote in our MLB.com SNY text poll of the game. Which Met do you think would make the best manager? Text A, B, C, or D to 57508. Write-in votes not allowed.
That's nice that they included Tom Glavine, because usually polls never include a pitcher as a future manager.
Well, how many former pitcher managers can you name?
No.
Two come to mind off the top of my head: Tommy Lasorda and Dallas Green. How many more are there?
Yeah.
You know, Ray Miller tried. It didn't work out so well. What am I missing? Who else has been a pitcher turned manager?
Oh, Larry Durker.
Right.
Fine manager when he. Yeah, there's just not that many.
Here, Momoda up in the Mets bullpen. With Trachsel now up to 90 pitches on the night. Josh Willingham, the batter, and Trachsel falls behind him 2-0. It's all been coming so easily for Trachsel tonight. He just gave up his second hit of the game.
Both Peterson and Willie Randolph, though, having a keen eye on this inning. Do not want to let this game get away.
Willingham, a dangerous hitter, homered in all 3 games against the Mets last week in Florida. 2-1. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Chris Cotter, our producer Greg Picker, our director Bill Webb, with you from Shea Stadium. Mets taking their 4th crack at clinching the National League East, the first before the home folks. It's been an electric night at Shea. The pitching of Steve Trachsel, the hitting of Jose Valentin front and center. But now Trachsel struggling a bit here in the 7th inning. Gave up a leadoff single to Miguel Cabrera, and now behind Josh Willingham, 3-1.
You see Rick Peterson on the phone. You know, I was going to say quietly, but maybe not so quietly. Yamamoto has really started to get some important innings from Willie Randolph.
3-1 to Willingham, and he pulls it foul. Get out of the way of that. And I hope everybody did. Mota has been nothing short of spectacular since shedding a Cleveland uniform and putting on Mets garb like night and day. And everybody appears to be okay down with that line drive landed. That's one happy kid.
Okay, it's good to celebrate, but get your eye back on the batter.
Cabrera at first, 3-2 with nobody out. Don't expect him to run. And it's lined right at David Wright. Good thing for Cabrera he wasn't running. That's the first out.
Well, that was hit kind of off the end of the bat. Not a hard play for David Wright. Kind of almost like a changeup coming out to him.
So 1 out and 1 on. Here's Mike Jacobs, who's 0 for 2 tonight and now hitless in his last 22 at bats. We saw another former Met break out of a long slump yesterday when Xavier Nady finally broke out of an 0 for 21. I'm sure that Nady had mixed feelings about the Pirates sweeping the Mets over the weekend, because if the Mets had won one of those games, he was invited to the party, not in the clubhouse, but later on. Pulled down to first past the diving Delgado. Cabrera to second. He'll stop there, and the Marlins have 2 men on. So Jacob snaps out of that 0 for 22 by grinding one past Delgado for a base hit.
Well, you see, Cabrera did a nice job of shielding Carlos Delgado. Did not get a good look at that ground ball as it beats him and goes into the outfield.
And here comes Willie Randolph. And he is making the side of the bullpen, and he's going to get Trachsel out of there before anything bad can happen. He wants Trachsel to leave on a good note.
That's a great point, Gary, because he's had 2 uneven starts. He struggled. Good to get the cheers from this crowd.
And for Steve Trachsel, who hasn't always felt the love this year, that's a great moment. The fans out in droves, hoping that 20 years and a day after the '86 clincher, Steve Trachsel's effort will be enough to put the Mets over the hump in '06. Well, this first started in 1980 in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Because you remember back in the 70s and as recently as 1986, a lot of times fans would overrun the field on clinchers. Well, that all stopped when Frank Rizzo first sent the horses out in Philadelphia in '80, and that has become standard operating procedure. Fans no longer storm fields after clinchers. It's too dangerous for everybody involved.
Well, and I know as Cody Ross comes to bat, I know Frank Cashin was very upset in '86 because of the state of the field after the fans are on it. You know, it makes it difficult to play on it.
Cody Ross up against Guillermo Mota, and he takes that changeup for a strike. Well, in 1969, the fans tore up the field 3 separate times: the Eastern Division clincher, the LCS, and the World Series. And it was tough getting the field back in shape. But you know, in '69 there was something very innocent about the fans charging the field, and I can say that because I was one of them. I was 11 years old. And Ross pops it up. Infield fly rule should be called. As Valentin takes charge, the batter's out, and there are 2 away. But by 1973, things had gotten a little bit more vicious, a little bit more violent. There was a little more vandalism involved rather than innocent celebration, and things only got worse over the course of the 70s with incidents like that, and finally a stop was put to it. And I think now there are very few fans who would even consider running on the field if the Mets clinch.
Remember in Chicago in the 70s, they burned the disco records night in the old Comiskey in Chicago, and that turned into just abomination.
They had to forfeit the second game of a doubleheader. That was in '79. Disco demolition night. Here's Amezaga with 2 out and 2 on. Fouls that one away. Guillermo Mota has got enormous pitcher's hands.
He is a pro basketball forward dressed in the baseball uniform. That's what he is.
You know, he's listed at 6'6", but you stand next to him, he looks taller. Ball's like a golf ball in his hands. Changeup in for a strike, and that changeup has been phenomenal.
Well, his changeup is the same speed as Trachsel and Brian Moeller, two starters fastball. Look at that grip. You can't even see the ball in his hand. You're right. It's like throwing a pool cue ball.
Getting right back with it, 1 and 2.
You know, Gary, you think that part of his success is you see this good changeup just off the outside corner. Some of the best success Guillermo Mota had was with Paul LaDuca as his catcher, and I would think that has been a big difference for him also.
He was traded with LaDuca from the Dodgers to the Marlins 2 years ago. Lifted to left, and Floyd is right there waiting. Side retired. Mota does his job. 7th inning stretch time at Shea. 4-0. Randy Messenger takes over the pitching for the Marlins. And the first man he'll face is Jose Valentin, who's looking for his 3rd home run of the night. And he got a standing ovation as he came to the plate.
Messenger, just another one of those Marlins relief pitchers that had a tough year this year. That high ERA, 6.57.
Twice in his career, Jose Valentin has hit 3 home runs in a game. He's already had 2 curtain calls tonight. Bangs that one off Olivo.
Fastball that drifted over the middle of the plate. Olivo took a shot.
It was not what Messenger intended on 0-2. Guillermo Mota is going to get a turn at bat.
Okay, when you have a 6.57 ERA, that just doesn't happen by accident. You know, that's from making mistakes. 0-2.
Gets it with a breaking ball, and Messenger fans Valentin, who will get another ovation as he heads off to the dugout.
Well, good breaking ball in the hand of Randy Messenger. Good overhand curveball. When you're ahead in the count, you want to expand the strike zone. Great job of throwing this in the dirt. Great job by Olivo blocking.
Well, Mota had been on deck. I think he would have batted had Valentin gotten aboard. That's a great sign. Is that an official sign, or is that something somebody made up? That's terrific. That's outstanding. They even got the phone number right.
That's right.
Aaron Howman getting ready as Ricky Leday bats for Guillermo Mota. It was nice to see Ricky pick up a hit in Pittsburgh. It has been such a rough stretch for him, but he banged a double off the wall in the 9th inning yesterday. That's picked him up after the Dodgers let him go. So Mota faced 2 batters, retired them both. And Howman will take it over in the 8th. And you know, so much of the Mets this year has been about their spectacular bullpen. And I was talking to Billy Wagner about this when we were in Pittsburgh, how that bullpen has actually improved since Sanchez went down. Ramirez with a 360 guns down Leday 2 away. Checking out the Jeep upcoming schedule. Final 7 home games of the year. 3 with the Marlins, 4 with the Nationals. And then the next time the Mets will be at Shea after that will be for their first postseason game. Here's Reyes and a bunt single in 3 trips. And he takes a strike. But Billy was talking about the way Aaron Heilman has stepped forward and how everybody else has followed behind him, and it really has been spectacular to watch.
And you know, a closer, they really appreciate that guy that bridges the gap to them to get the ball to them, and appreciates Heilman's efforts.
And Reyes rips one into right field, and he has his second hit of the night. 0-2 curveball, and Reyes has his 183rd hit of the year.
You know what happens for a lot of young pitchers is that they, in the minor leagues, get away with throwing this curveball because young hitters have trouble hitting the breaking pitch. They don't have the command to be able to throw it in the dirt like he did against Jose Valentin.
Here's LaDuca. You know, Wagner said when he was talking to Omar Minaya before he signed with the Mets, he and Omar were talking about the composition of the bullpen, and Wagner said that he said to Omar, you need 3 closers. You need a 7th inning closer, an 8th inning closer, and a 9th inning closer. And he said what you just said, a closer is only as good as the guys around him. LaDuca has never been in the postseason. He's 6 outs away from it now, and I'm sure if he gets there, his thoughts will be with his mom, whose initials he carves in the dirt and puts on his shoes before every game. LaDuca's mom, Lucy, passed away a number of years ago before she could see him play in the big leagues, but it was Lucy LaDuca who honed Paul's batting eye as a kid, tossing pinto beans to him in the backyard. Popped it up, and in shallow left field, Hanley Ramirez is under it, and the side retired. We go to the 8th inning. Mets needing 6 defensive outs to pop the champagne. Big crowd here at Shea. 6 outs away from a celebration. Mets with a 4-0 lead as we go to the 8th, and Aaron Heilman owns the 8th.
Well, we talked about him before last inning, just what a great job he's done ever since Duaner Sanchez, we saw earlier in the game, went down. Heilman's just been nails, as they would say.
Nails? Didn't he play center field?
He did play center field.
Miguel Olivo 0 for 2. He's flied out and grounded out. Steve Trachsel went 6 1/3, allowed just 3 hits and walked only 1. Traxel's in line for his 15th win, and you know, if it comes to pass, how fitting. Steve Traxel's been a Met since 2001. As you look at that last pitch, jam Olivo. Nobody has been here longer among the current Mets. Nobody has been less respected than Steve Trachsel, but he's persevered, and what a job he did tonight. 1-1 to Olivo. And that changeup, a great weapon for Heilman. 1-2.
Well, the thing about Trachsel is that if you said before the season that you're going to have a pitcher coming off major back surgery and that he was going to make every start, one of the few starters who's not missed a start, and win you 15 ball games, that would have been, you would have taken that in a heartbeat.
Traxel's earned run average coming into the game was 5.17, and that's the highest it had been all year. But with his outing tonight, he got it back under 5 to 4.96, and that'll look a lot nicer for him on the stat sheet. One-two to Olivo.
Well, we were talking about watching games in the past. If I were Steve Trachsel, and I know he likes to watch a lot of tape, I would get this game and I'd play it the night before his start in the playoffs, because that's how sharp he was, how aggressive he was.
How about triple barrel action in the bullpen?
Roy Springy doesn't even get a mound.
That's all the guys who are not going to pitch tonight getting their work in. Dave Williams, Royce Ring,
and Dave Williams.
Looped, shallow left center, and that'll fall in for a base hit for Olivo. And so The Marlins have their 4th hit of the game. It comes leading off in the top of the 8th. Well, let's look at the results of our MLB.com SNY text poll of the game. Which Met do you think would make the best manager?
Please. Pinch hitting for the Marlins. Number 21,
Glavine
Joe
by a
Woodward.
whisker over Loduca. Well, I would like to officially throw Chris Woodward's name into the hopper.
Chris Woodward and Jose Valentin.
Yep.
I think Jose Valentin would make a great manager. Really knows the game.
Valentin's already a team owner.
That's right.
Down in Puerto Rico. He said, it's great. I can play any position I want. It's like the guy in the lottery commercial.
That's right.
Except he's a little more talented. Joe Borchard, the pinch hitter. Yeah, you're right. Valentin, Woodward. I think Loduca will make a great manager someday if he wants to do it.
Well, those catchers, they really know the game because they have to. Quarterbacks on the field, as you might say.
And he's fiery. I love that.
Yes. A little bit like that guy, Joe Girardi.
Girardi's done a remarkable job this year. Will he be back next year? That's a whole different question. Borchard pulls it, and Delgado's got this one. Gets the force. Reyes return. In time, double play. Spectacularly done by Delgado.
What a nice play. The short hop. Key is he got up quickly, made a perfect throw to get the lead runner, and Reyes with that strong arm is able to get it back to him in time to get Joe Borchard. Nice play by Carlos Delgado.
Well, after watching Jacobs' ball go by him in the last inning, this time not screened by the runner, and he was able to make that backhand play. Two out and nobody on. Here's Ramirez. Hanley Ramirez 0 for 3.
You know, Gary, there's certain things that happen my summer here doing the games that remind me of the mid-'80s. This crowd is a mid-'80s crowd.
0-2. And now they'll all stand up. Struck him out.
Well, Chris Riesoff on for the Marlins. It's almost like you just want to go straight to the next inning.
Almost like a guy working on a no-hitter. Carlos Beltran takes ball one. Beltran with a double and a walk tonight, and he scored his 121st run. That leads the National League. One and one. 46,729. What on your schedule looked like a run-of-the-mill Monday night. And how perfectly has this all played out? Certainly nobody on the field wanted to get swept in Pittsburgh. But now they're getting swept away with the passion of their fans. Breaking ball by Riesoff, 2-2. The MVP talk has died down around Beltran, and he couldn't give a hoot. To deep left center field. Willingham has room. One away. Log on to Mets.com now for your postseason ticket purchase opportunity. Tickets to potential Mets postseason games will be available for purchase exclusively through random online drawings. Get to Mets.com or LosMets.com and register today. That is the scene in the Mets clubhouse where the plastic draping is already down and Guillermo Mota is helping them put it up. Now wait a second.
He's doing it all tonight.
Is that against some kind of, is that a breach of etiquette?
I would not do that. I think that's bad karma.
Delgado 0 for 3. I mean, you know the stories about 1986 when they had the plastic sheeting up in the Red Sox clubhouse here at Shea. And they had to rip it down expeditiously.
They had T-shirts on their chairs. Although Mota is 6'6", he's probably the only person who can reach high enough to.
It's a good point, especially with those chairs already tucked away in the lockers, along with everybody's belongings. Look, they got the champagne strategically located at the corners of the clubhouse so everybody can reach.
Where they're working, that used to be my locker. You get attached to a locker. You really do.
Is that the same plastic sheeting they used 18 years ago?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it'll be a great celebration. But that carpet tomorrow morning will not smell so fine.
Certainly 88 was not the last time there was a champagne celebration in this ballpark. That was in 2000. As Delgado swings and misses. Mets clinched both the National League Division Series and the National League Championship Series here at Shea against the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals that I should say against the Giants and the Cardinals that year. Well, Billy Wagner told me in Pittsburgh that he wanted to be at the bottom of the dog pile. Delgado held the swing. And it looks like Billy will get that wish.
Well, good breaking ball by Chris Friesel. Let's see if he went. I think you get the benefit of the call there from the third base umpire, Doug Eddings.
David Wright on deck. Into short right field where the rover Dan Uggla throws out Delgado 2 away. Your AOL game summary and 2 names, Valentin, Trachsel. Brilliant. Beltran has chipped in as well. And the Mets 3 defensive outs away from a National League East title. Want a better high-speed internet? You belong at AOL. And this game is a half inning ahead of the game in Philadelphia, and they'll have to play 9 full in Philly. So unless this game bogs down, there you see the score there. Mets should be done with this before the Phillies are done with their game.
Mota back on the bench after work done.
Did he bring the staple gun with him? Wright takes a strike.
Well, there can't be anything better than being traded from a team that is a second division club and coming over and being able to celebrate like this as Guillermo Mota will.
1-1 to David Wright. Gets cheered for the pickup.
Well, we know what that man can do in the playoffs.
He's contemplating a return to the postseason where he made his name 2 years ago with the Astros. Up the middle, and Wright has a base hit. First hit of the night for David, the 8th of the game for the Mets.
You know, as an older player, what you start to reflect on when you are on a night like this, start to reflect on, you know, this might be the last time this happens. You know, I mean, you really want to take it in because it might not happen again for you. You can never predict future success.
So Floyd has an RBI single tonight, 1 for 3. And he pulls it right at Uggla. That'll do it for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. And now Billy Wagner will get set to take them out for the 9th. 3 outs from a clincher. Dan Uggla leads off.
You know, Gary, I do not miss not playing anymore. I miss this.
How do you keep your emotions in check if you're on the mound?
You prepare for this your whole life. Play in front of family and friends when you're a teenager. Couple thousand in the minor leagues.
Popped up. One out. On a night the Mets have broken a franchise record for attendance in a season, it sounds like 400,000 here at Shea. Joe Girardi couldn't care less about the Mets clinching. His team is in trouble after a brilliant season. Two 2-0 to Cabrera. It's not a safe situation for Wagner, but boy, it sure feels like one, doesn't it?
Whoa.
First time around for those guys and for him. We'll say Valentin 6 years ago played in a postseason series for the White Sox. With Floyd as a World Series ring.
Well, you know it's an electric game when the opposing team is losing 4-0 and every single member of their team is on the top step of the dugout trying to take this all in, hoping that someday they go through this.
3-1 to Cabrera. To center field. Beltran and Green and Beltran, 2 out.
Just a reminder that it is dangerous and illegal to enter the bowling field at any time. Anyone doing so will be arrested. So please, for the safety and security of everyone at Shea, I encourage you to enjoy the game from your seats. The left fielder, Josh Willingham.
It's what these guys live for. Ball 1 to Josh Willingham. To left field. Floyd. And after running roughshod over the National League, the Mets have a title to show for it. 2006 National League East champions.